in the Life Science Lab. And for tonight, I will be your host. Before we get started, I have a couple of things I would like to tell you about what's going on at Omsi these days. For instance, you may have heard or you may have been here because Omsi is open. And our current exhibit, Dinosaurs Revealed, is a really fun exhibit with lots of animatronic dinosaurs, some cool skeletons. It's a real fun time. Also open here at Omsi is our theater, a planetarium, and you can do a tour of the submarine. For all of this, we recommend looking online for our latest up-to-date information and review our COVID guidelines, as well as get tickets. You can get tickets in advance, and we highly recommend it. We hope you enjoyed tonight's pre-pub trivia and music by local artist Tony Furtado. And also, putting on these live shows takes a lot of work, and we have an amazing partner that helps us make this happen. Celestream, a big thank you for providing the live streaming services for tonight's Science Pub. We really appreciate it. Let's see what's happening else. Well, coming up is our 10th virtual Omsi After Dark Summer Beer Fest. So we'll be featuring new releases of beers and some flagship beers at many Oregon breweries. Being a summer beer fest, you can imagine some of the lineups are Kolsch and lagers, and there's other pale ales and IPAs as well. Tickets are on sale now, so visit the website, get more details. It's a good time. For tonight, and any time really, we encourage you to put the pub back into Science Pub experience. Order some delicious food and tasty beverage from some of our partners around the state. Look at this list all over. I was just at some of these places recently. It's really good. So please help us in supporting them. Okay, folks. So if you are longtime Science Pub folks, you know the drill and what the schedule is going to look like. But if some of you are new to this program, first we start with a trivia game. So it's going to be a dinosaur themed trivia game for tonight. And you can grab a pen and paper if you want to participate. After that, we have the lecture, and we're going to learn about the 2 dinosaur fossils found here in Oregon. After the lecture, we'll take some questions. To submit questions, you can do it anytime during the event. You can do it now even. Just put a comment on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're viewing. And we will collect all of those, and at the end, we'll start asking the presenter. And then if you enjoyed tonight's lecture, please consider making a donation or purchasing a Science Pub pint glass. Details are there on the slide. But don't worry, there's no pressure to donate. Our mission at Omsi is to inspire curiosity by creating engaging learning experiences for all people, ages, backgrounds. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a fun event. It's time for trivia. So this week for trivia, our dinosaur trivia, we have one of our awesome educators, one of my coworkers, Jen Powers. Hey, Jen, how are you?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Great. Thanks for joining. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Are you feeling ready for tonight's lecture of dinosaurs?
Always. I run the dinosaur exhibit at Omsi, and so I'm excited to learn a little bit about dinosaurs.
Excellent. Yes. I thought I was happy to see that you're doing this since you work so closely with the dinosaurs, and I'm sure you get lots of questions from our visitors about the dinosaurs in the exhibit. So.
Yes.
If you are at home and wanting to join in the Q&A, make sure to get a pen and paper available, or do it on your phone or wherever you like. If you have people around you, have them join in. You can compete and make it a good time. All right, we're gonna start with the first question. Jenny, you ready? All right, so our first question, one Dinosaurs are rare in Oregon because, well, I guess I should say dinosaur fossils are rare in Oregon because I think we all know why dinosaurs are rare in Oregon, but dinosaur fossils are rare in Oregon because A, rocks of the dinosaur age are mainly marine. B, Oregon has very few outcrops of rocks of the dinosaur age. C, Oregon fossils were collected much later than other states. Or D, all of the above.
I'm going to go with A, that they're mostly marine fossils.
Okay, yeah. What makes you think that?
You know, because Oregon was mostly underwater, I think,
cool.
During the age of dinosaurs.
You are correct. Yes, 1 out of 1. Off to a great start. Yes, A, rocks of the dinosaur age are mainly marine. So I'm guessing we'll probably find plenty of marine-based fossils here in Oregon. Hope to learn more about that too during this talk. Ready for question 2? We have question 2, ornithopod dinosaurs. The ornithopod dinosaurs, what do they include? Is it A, T-Rex and other predators? B, long-necked sauropods? C, herbivorous duckbills? Or D, 3-horn rhino-like herbivores?
I'm gonna go with C. The duckbills, the hadrosaurs.
Yeah, the duckbills. Yes, hadrosaurs. Nice. All right, you ready for the next one?
I am, yes.
Okay. So, closest living relative of dinosaurs. We have A, Komodo dragons. B, birds. C, crocodiles. Or D, turtles.
I'm gonna go with birds, and I know that maybe doesn't sound like the right answer, but I'm pretty sure it's right.
Birds? Okay, let's go for it. Let's check it out. Birds! Yes. What do you think? Here's a bonus question, Jen. If birds wasn't on this list, if we take away B, what would your guess be then?
Based on what I've learned in the exhibit, I'd go with crocodiles.
I would too. I don't actually. There's not a bonus here. I just kind of made it up. So I'm not really sure, at least on this official one, but I'm pretty sure it would be crocodiles. That would be my guess. Hey, if you're working out there, if you're joining in, put it in the comments. What do you think? All right, Jen, back to ours, and we're going to talk about redwoods. Redwood fossils. So redwood is the sequoia family. Redwood sequoia fossils are found as ancient as A, Carboniferous period. That's 300 million years ago. Is it the Permian period? 250 million years ago. Is it C, the Jurassic? 200 million years ago. Or D, Cretaceous? 100 million years ago.
Wow. Well, I know that angiosperms came about during the age of dinosaurs, the flowering plants in the Jurassic, but I would think that sequoias and redwoods would be quite a bit older. So I'm going to go with A.
A, Carboniferous. It is D, Cretaceous.
No!
100 million years ago. Oh, your first wrong one, but I got to say, that was tricky, and I'm still really impressed that there's sequoia fossils 100 million years ago. I think it might be like the Dawn Redwood Metasequoia. Have you heard of that one?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like a, you know, we have a...
Yeah, the Metasequoia it's our state fossil.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Question 5. Also about the Cretaceous period. So during the Cretaceous period, about 100 million years ago, what was Oregon like? Oregon was it A, only 2 small islands off the Klamath and Blue Mountains? Was it B, completely underwater as far east as Granite, so the Idaho border? Was it C, mainly underwater with coastal cliffs in the eastern Klamath and Blue Mountains? Or D, similar to today, but with low coast range in Marine Bay and Willamette Valley?
I like the idea of C, the cliffs.
Yeah, how come?
You know, it feels like maybe at that point we weren't totally underwater, and it feels like, you know, in that area there are a lot of really interesting geologic formations. So that's what I'm going with.
Nice, good thinking. And you're right, it's C. It was mainly underwater with coastal cliffs in Klamath and Blue Mountains. That's cool. I didn't know that until I moved to Oregon. I grew up in Louisiana, which is also, like, I think, relatively young land, especially where I grew up in South Louisiana. Okay. Question 6
Definitely.
is about bones, and it's about the sacrum. It's a bone formed from the fusion of which bones? Is it A, the lowest lumbar vertebrae, B, distal rib ends, C, the tibia and fibula fused, or D, the ulna and radius? It's the sacrum.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe A.
Wild guess A?
Kind of a wild guess. I know the dinosaurs have something interesting going on with their pelvic bones, and not really with their, like, maybe not as much with their arms or their legs, which is, you know, C and D. So that's my guess.
Nice, nicely done. You are correct. It's the lowest lumbar vertebrae are fused together.
Yeah.
The image there kind of shows it pretty well. You can kind of imagine how they look sort of like a vertebra.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to question 6. You're doing really well. Oh, I think I went too fast. There we go. Toe bones. What are toe bones called besides toe bones? They have other names, of course. Sciencey names. So should we call toe bones A, ossicles? Should we instead call them B, carpals, D, cochlea, or D, phalanges?
Well, I know that carpal tunnel syndrome is in your wrist, so I'm going to eliminate that one. And I'm going to choose D, phalanges.
All right, good. I like your process of elimination based off of your knowledge. Yeah, the carpals there. You are correct. They are phalanges.
Nice.
And we have...
that word.
Yeah, it's a fun word, phalanges, and for a really fun image too. I kind of need to draw little people on the bottom of my toes, I think. And there are there are 14 phalanges here in each of ours. So it says in the human body, but I think what it means is like on each limb of the body. So if it's the human body total together, it'd be 14 times 4. Which that's bonus question 7. That's the next bonus question. Oh. What's 14 times 4? Quick. All right, now we can skip that one. All right, let's go to 8. 8 is Ichthyosaurs. They're not dinosaurs, but are they A, marine crocodiles with long snouts? Are they B, extinct dolphin-like marine reptiles? C, extinct long-neck marine reptiles? Or D, large bony fish? What are ichthyosaurs?
Well, I'm eliminating A. I'm pretty sure they're not crocodiles. I know that the study of fish is ichthyology, but I'm still thinking that the photos that I've seen of ichthyosaurs are not just fish. So it's whether it looks like a dolphin or a long neck. And I'm going to go with dolphin. I think that sounds fun. And it also looks like the photo that we're looking at.
Yeah, this photo does seem kind of helpful. And yes, you are correct. They're these cool dolphin-like marine reptiles, which I don't know. I really, for some reason, of like thinking about what all the dinosaurs look like, or marine-like reptiles or marine reptiles. I would really like to see what an ichthyosaur look like. I think that would be really fun. So this is a pretty good image here, I guess. This artist representation is a good one. Okay, you're doing great, Jen. Just 2 more left. Question 9 is about extinct ammonites of the dinosaur age. And what are they? Are they A, cephalopod mollusks? Are they important indicators of geological age? Are they marine predators? Or are they D, all of the above? What are ammonites?
This sounds like an all of the above situation. Because I'm pretty sure it's A, but I'm also pretty sure it's B. So I'm going to assume then that it is also C.
Oh, that's a good deduction here. Yes, you are correct. D, all of the above.
Nice.
They are mollusks. And also, just like many cephalopod mollusks that are in our ocean today, pretty big marine predators hunting lots of other things. I would like to know more about important indicators of geologic time. That sounds like I hope to learn more about that in this.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Okay, I think there's just one more question. And it is about the Cretaceous period of geologic history and what it's named for. Is the Cretaceous period of geological history named for A, the chalk deposits of Normandy and Dover, B, coal measures of Belgium, C, green sands of the Isle of Wight, or D, red beds of the flaming cliffs of Mongolia?
Wow. Well, I have no idea. So this is truly a wild guess. But I'm going to go with D because Omsi recently hosted an exhibit about the life and legacy of Genghis Khan, and I feel like I've learned so much and loved so much of the Mongolian culture. So I'm going to assume, therefore, that it must be D based on my very scientific deductions. Also, you know what? There's a lot of dinosaurs in Mongolia, so I'm going for it.
Gotcha. Good. I like your thinking. I like, it was a way of like wanting it to be so, but it's going to be A, the chalk deposits of Normandy and Dover. And I was going to give you another clue. I should have, the picture really was another one that was really trying to give it away. And in the previous one, some of these chalk cliffs
like
here.
You said, I wanted it to be...
Yeah.
I just wanted it to be Mongolia so bad.
Well, Jen, thanks so much. I believe you got 8 correct, which is that right? 8 out of 10.
I did. I was keeping track. 8 out of 10.
Nice. I think that's better than any time I've done the quiz. So nice work. And before you go, I have another bonus question for you.
Okay.
What do dinosaurs use to build their homes?
What do dinosaurs use to build their homes?
Yeah.
Is this a joke or a science question?
It's a joke. It is a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Oh no, I can't think of a good pun. Palm leaves. I don't know.
Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs. You're right. That's so good.
Very important tool to dinosaurs. They were tool users too, apparently.
You're right.
All right, we should get out of the joke land and get back to real science stuff. Jen, thanks so much for joining in and participating. And thank you to everyone else out there taking part in the quiz as well. Bye, Jen.
Bye, John.
And for everyone else, thank you again for joining trivia. At this time, we're going to have our guest lecturer come along and join in. So our guest lecturer tonight is Gregory Retalic. He's a professor in the Department of Geological Sciences at the University of Oregon. And his doctoral degree was from the University of New England in Australia, and he completed a postdoc at Indiana University before coming to Oregon. Dr. Retalic's research is dedicated to the study of paleosols, which are ancient soils, fossilized soils. These paleosols provide new insights into major events in the history of life on Earth, such as early human evolution in East Africa, or major extinctions of life, and the evolution of the first forest. In recent years, Dr. Retalic has found evidence of life in many paleosols predating the Cambrian explosion of life, especially in the very ancient rocks of South Africa and Western Australia. All right, take it away, Greg. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Sean, Melanie, and Jen. Great quiz. Yes, we should have explained that the Creta part of the Ceus is Latin for chalk. So if there are any classical scholars out there, I'm sure they got it right. It's really timely that I'm talking about Oregon's dinosaurs now, because just today I got my permit from the BLM to continue excavating the discovery we made about 6 years ago for a very unimpressive fossil, as I'm sure you'll see, and we have high hopes that we may find more. But a little more about me. I'm director of the Condon Collection, which is the state fossil collection here at the University of Oregon. And we do have fundraising going on continuously here too, like Omsi, for an expansion. Here's a conceptual plan of it, where we could actually put all the fossils into a vault where they would be secure in perpetuity. Around Eugene, I play second fiddle to my wife, Diane Retalic, who was famous as the director of the Eugene Concert Choir, which is actually starting up concerts once again. So if you're down our way and feel like a bit of classical music, then do please join a performance. So yes, the quiz question: why so few dinosaurs? Why so much dino despair in Oregon? And the reason is that back in the day, back in the Cretaceous, when the dinosaurs were around, Oregon was mainly out to sea. You'll notice some outlines of states here. This is Idaho, maybe a bit of Oregon, mostly ocean. And there was this great island that was moving north, a little bit like the Selenian block, but it just kept on going, cruising past here. So Oregon's not a good place to find a lot of terrestrial fossils. We do have a few places where we have beach deposits and shallow marine deposits with ammonites and a few other things, as we'll see. But the reason why it's taken until now to actually document a dinosaur from Oregon is mainly because it's not a very promising place for them. It's not really where they lived. Where they lived was in Montana and Colorado and Utah. This is where you get the dinosaurs, not so much in Oregon. But we'll take what we can get. And we were very thrilled on a field trip some years ago, 2014, I think it was, to have actually discovered a fossil not too far from the town of Mitchell. It's interesting geology there. It's all sort of folded up and a bit confusing, but we were absolutely stunned to find in this heap of rock, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but right here in this heap of rock, there was a dinosaur bone. This is Aaron Woodard of the BLM, which is not Black Lives Matter, but the Bureau of Land Management in this case. And this is Edward Davis, who is the curator of the Condon collection here in Eugene. And we now have a permit for the last 2 weeks of June to open up a 2x4 meter pit and see if we can find some more dinosaurs. It's probably a forlorn hope for reasons that will become apparent as I go on. But we have selected a spot where I do think we'll at least get a lot of sharp teeth. It turns out if we could find a single tooth or a decent skull fragment of this Oregon dinosaur, we could give it a name. The bit we have currently is not good enough for that. What we do know, however, is that this dinosaur is very well dated. In other words, we know pretty exactly what geological age it is. This is a panel diagram. There's meters here, 2.5 kilometers of thickness of sediment out there, all folded up. This is the basement. Here's the basal part of the Cretaceous. It's in the Albian period. And these are the zones of ammonites, these lovely coiled creatures that are so good for telling geological time. They lived in the ocean. The quiz showed you a nice reconstruction of it. They're marine predators. And since they lived in the global ocean, they're very similar throughout the world. So one good ammonite, and you can actually date the rocks very, very closely. Our particular bone was right here in this panel between the first appearance of Mortonesaurus inflatum, which is the one before this one here, Mortonesaurus phalanx. It's between those two. Now, we can date the rock using an ammonite because in other places, we have a pretty good idea what the geological age is from radiometric dating. We know that our dinosaur, which we call the Mitchell ornithopod, a bit about that in the quiz as well, is 103 million years old, plus or minus about 1. These ribby ammonites are the best for telling age. There's a lot of smooth ones out there, this Brachylophosaurus and others that are not so good. But you may be surprised to learn that we have a whole sequence of ammonite zones in Central Oregon, starting with this one, this one, this one, and then these three here. We can divide up the sequence fairly finely to give an idea of geological age. This is the principle of biostratigraphy, or telling the age of rocks using fossils. Well, here it is with Kristen Stroma, who is our publicity lady for the Museum of Natural and Cultural History here in Eugene. This is it. One single bone. Not too exciting, really, but so far, it's almost all we've got. We have some other promising leads, but it's almost all we've got. And I'll talk about a second Oregon dinosaur later on. These are all the different views of it. Backwards, sideways, back and front. These side views are nice. This kind of curve here, this is really what is telling us that it is a toe bone, and that is the outer surface, and this is the inner articulated surface. And there's this kind of basin here. It's got these sulci, or these grooves on the top and the bottom. This is the articular surface, which is this one here, which would go out to a claw or a hoof. And this is the other surface, the articular surface on the other side of the bone. Luckily, I have quite a number of really expert colleagues, and here they are, who helped me with this. We published it in the Journal of Vertebrate Paleontology a couple of years ago. Samantha and Edward are on the faculty here at the university. They're my paleontological colleagues. Paul Barrett is a graduate student, and of course, he was the one who did a lovely three-dimensional scan of it that you can sort of manipulate and turn around on your computer screen. That was actually published in one of the press releases. Jessica was visiting from the University of Calgary at the time, and she was very helpful as well. Now, in the summer of 2015, I took my Prius, a 2005 Prius, all the way up to the North Slope of Alaska, up the Dalton Highway, down the Alaska Highway, and visited one dinosaur museum after another. And there are many, starting with Anchorage, which has a really wonderful dinosaur museum, and then coming down through several dinosaur museums in Canada, particularly the Drumheller Museum, and then the Museum of the Rockies in Montana. And I was particularly interested in this toe bone and what kind of a dinosaur it could be. And what I needed was fully articulated feet like this. So this was my foot fetish summer, taking pictures in museums of the feet of dinosaurs. This is a pretty typical foot of a theropod or carnivorous dinosaur, and it has this pit. These collateral pits on either side. And you can see that same pit in a chicken foot as well. And this is why we think, one of the reasons why we think birds are descended from dinosaurs. A very characteristic feature of theropod dinosaurs, but not present in our specimen. So that ruled out that one. And the collateral pits do not disappear when the creature gets really large either. Here are the pits, the collateral pits in a phalange here, outer phalange, and here. This is in a Tyrannosaurus rex from the Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller. Even the big ones have these collateral pits, which are there to take ligaments that allow the articulation of a claw, which is quite a damaging weapon. Theropods and even modern chickens have claws that they can use to flex and grip hold of things. It's not like an elephant or a sauropod, a long-necked dinosaur either. When creatures get very big, be it an elephant, this is an elephant here, a Miocene age one, from the Drumheller Museum, and this is a big sauropod, Diplodocus, from the Jurassic of Colorado. Those toe bones tend to have a girdling sulcus, so they're kind of like a spool of thread. It's a continuous sulcus or a continuous depression that goes right around the bone itself, and then there's an expanded flange on the inside and on the outside, so you could wind your cotton in that like a spool. They're spool shaped. They don't have collateral pits because they don't have the claws on the outer part of the foot. They have a more graviportal stand like an elephant. These are big, heavy animals, many tons in weight, that need a load supporting limb rather than an agile slashing limb. These girdling sulci are also quite common in Ankylosaurs and ceratopsin. Ankylosaurs are the armored dinosaurs. They have a club-like tail and a lot of scoots over their body, like a crocodile does. Ceratopsians are, of course, the three horns of that cartoon, The Land Before Time. These also have a girdling sulcus. The closest match turned out to be a hadrosaur, and I particularly like this one, Brachylophosaurus, which is a late Cretaceous form from the Judith River Formation of Montana. Geologically a little bit younger than ours. Ours is 103. These are more like 80 million years. And it's got this lappet basin. There's no, this trough here does not continue all the way around the bone, as in so many other dinosaurs. And there's no central pit here either. So we have a sort of a general idea of what kind of a bone we're dealing with by these bone comparisons. It's really quite wonderful to have such a wealth of dinosaur museums. And I do hope you will consider, now that COVID is abating, one of the great joys of travel is, of course, the Great American Road Trip. Don't forget Canada. We have plenty of dinosaur museums within a wonderful few days drive of Eugene and Portland. give it a shot. I think you'll really enjoy them all. Now, Brachylophosaurus, this is a reconstruction of it based on Leonardo. I have some more pictures of Leonardo, a very famous mummy dinosaur. I got to inspect Leonardo when it was on display at the Houston Natural History Museum, but the Children's Museum of Indianapolis has it now. Don't knock the Children's Museum, even if you're an adult. They have one of the finest collections of dinosaurs that you'll find anywhere in the world, including 3 T-Rexes and a lot of other interesting fossils as well. The group of ornithopods is one of the first of the groups of dinosaurs to have been discovered. It was discovered by Mary Ann Mantell, who was the wife of Gideon Mantell, a Sussex physician, in 1822, and then became really famous when Louis Dollo discovered a whole bunch of skeletons of them in a coal mine in Bernissart in Belgium. It was named at first from just a single tooth. Here it is. If we could find a tooth like this in Oregon, we would know what it was. It could be an iguanodon for all we know. It could be an eolambia. It could be, oh, Carol Jones here. Could be several different things. This is our quest this summer to see if we can find something that will enable us to actually name it. Iguanodon, of course, is known from full skeletons. It has this peculiar thumb spike. We don't quite know what that's about. Could be a sexual display feature, but quite a large dinosaur, herbivorous dinosaur that evidently roamed around in packs. The collection of iguanodon fossils that are in the Brussels Museum are still really an impressive display. This is Leonardo. Leonardo is a mummy. Here's the face, which is very horse-like, but upside down here. The neck is in kind of a death pose here. And a lot of the internal organs are preserved, including a heart and a gut. A tail is missing. Our Oregon dinosaur toe is actually about the same size as the equivalent bone in Brachylophosaurus. And from that, we can get an idea of how big our dinosaur was. 5.1 meters, about 17 feet, and 1,500 pounds, actually, about the size of my Prius, which I drove all the way to the Arctic slope and back. A big dinosaur here in Oregon, 103 million years ago. There are several other dinosaurs of almost comparable age, but not quite. These are some of the possibilities, and this is why we hope to get a skull fragment or a tooth or something this summer. Eolambia, this one here, is a little bit younger, around about 100 million years. Ours is 103. And Tenotosaurus here is a little bit older, around about 120 million years before present. These are dinosaurs that were roaming Western North America. And it'll be interesting to see if ours is one of those, or iguanodon, or something completely new. We would really like to get something that we could give a name. Toe bone by itself is not enough to give a name. There were bad mistakes were made early on in the study of dinosaurs with the naming of Brontosaurus from a full skeleton without a skull. And later it was discovered that, well, yeah, that skeleton is actually the same as another one with a different skull. So that's why Brontosaurus went out of favor for a long time, but it may be coming back. So the naming is something that we're not really on top of here in Oregon, but we're hopeful. Here's a family tree of dinosaurs. Here are the big theropods, the big meat eaters. There's T-Rex. Here are the long necks. We're not anywhere near there. We didn't have a stegosaur or these marginocephalians like a triceratops. We're in this branch of the family tree right here. And sort of zooming in a little bit, we're in this family tree of the ornithopods. We're not dealing with one of the really advanced sorts of ornithopods that we find in the late Cretaceous, because we're still in the early Cretaceous. We're somewhere on the family tree between Iguanodontidae here and Uranosaurus. Spectacular skeleton of Uranosaurus in the museum in Venice, Italy. It's definitely worth your attention when you can travel overseas. So we have a general idea what the Oregon dinosaur is like. We also have a bit of an idea of what it was like in the environment in which it lived. If you've been out to Mitchell, you may have noticed that there are these ridges of conglomerate. This is basically a tennis ball size clast of dacite. Here's quartzite, or actual quartz pebble, quartzite, several other sorts of rocks. These are the deposits of a series of rivers and deltas and submarine fans. We have an idea about what the vegetation was like when the Oregon dinosaur was alive. This is a conifer shoot here, which we find in the Hudspeth shells, along with the ammonites. There's needles that come off on this angle here from this central axis. If you think this looks a little bit like Douglas fir, well, you're not too wrong. It actually is pretty similar to Douglas fir, but it has a slightly different and wider leaf. We call it a Lardiculatus montanensis, but it would have been a conifer tree, statuesque and tall, like a Douglas fir. Here's a fern, Nithostia fern. I like to imagine them as a little bit like sword ferns. This stem here is a horsetail. Equisitides, we have a lot of equisetum, which is the modern one, growing still in Eugene, and you've probably seen them in various Oregon forests, in Western Oregon forests, and also on the coast. And then these tiny little leaves here, this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here, these are the leaves of redwood, sequoia. And by this I mean the coast redwood, not the giant redwood, but the coast redwood. The coast redwood has a fossil record, not only here, but elsewhere in Western North America, that takes it all the way back to the Cretaceous. So if we want a vision of what the environment was like when the Oregon dinosaur was around, well, go no further than Redwood National Park in Northern California, where we have coast redwood, Sequoia sempervirens, and sword ferns forming a forest quite close to a cliffed coast with shingle beaches to create those very cobbly beds that we see in the Gable Creek conglomerate formation out there in Mitchell. The Gable Creek formation with the shingle coast passes out into shales of the Hudspeth formation, which would have been offshore, and those shales contain the plant debris which drifts out to sea, and also the ammonites which helped us to date the fossil. Now the kind of fossil that we have here is an example of a bloat and float. Here's a really nice reconstruction of a comparable preservation of a duckbill dinosaur from the Mooresville chalk in Alabama. This is a phenomenon where a creature will die on the beach. It'll swell up as the decay gases start to fill up its chest cavity. It'll drift out into the ocean, and then it will be attacked by sharks, by pterosaurs, by all sorts of creatures. Here are ammonites in the sea swimming along. This is not a very promising kind of preservation to find an articulated dinosaur. Here's our toe bone right here. Even the feet will tend to fall apart. So it could be that the fossil we have is the only one we'll ever find, that the bones are so scattered in this marine deposit that there's no chance we'll get an articulated skeleton. Nevertheless, optimism runs amok among paleontologists, and we're still hopeful we'll find more. Now, it turns out that the West Coast is a pretty miserable place for dinosaurs on the whole, but if you add them all up, it's not too bad. Just a few years ago, 2015, this bone here from Sucia Island was found by Peacock and Sidor from Sucia Island. It's about 80 million years ago. And it's a theropod, we think. We can't name it either because the postcranial skeleton is not that diagnostic. But we can build up, particularly in California, mainly in marine rocks, from this sort of float and broke preservation where the carcasses have drifted out to the ocean, a bit of a record of dinosaurs and even some birds in our Cretaceous rock. So it's not hopeless. And as time goes on, of course, the record gets better and better. Now, I had known, even before I found the bone in Central Oregon, that there was another dinosaur. And here it is here. This is when I first visited it in 1986 in a rock platform. Here's a view from the rock platform out to an offshore island at Cape Sebastian State Park on the south coast of Oregon. Different geological age, about 72 million years or so, to 80 million years or so. This was actually discovered by Don Savage. And it was well known among paleontologists, but all that was known about it was a note in Don Savage's field book. He was a paleontologist at the University of Berkeley, and he never published it or anything like that. But the very enterprising Dave Taylor from Portland State, and who has also worked with Omsi, actually managed to get this really awkward bone out of the rock, and after many years, prepare the whole thing out. Really a triumph of persistence. He published it in 2018, just a month after we published ours, and it turns out it's a duckbill dinosaur, Sacrum, a younger one. Quite a more elegant creature. Once again, this is not something you can publish a name for. You need something more diagnostic, like some teeth or a skull would be great. But Oregon has two dinosaurs, and they both were published within about a month of each other, which is quite remarkable. We went from 0 to 2 in just 1 month in 2018. We were both actually presenting at the Society of Vertebrate Paleontology meeting in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Spencer Lucas is on staff of the museum there. This is what the other one looks like, we think. This is a Lambiosaurus lambii, which is probably pretty similar to the bone that is known from Cape Sebastian. Rather more elegant looking creature. Almost all the advanced ornithopods of late Cretaceous age have these bony crests. Some of them have trumpets and all sorts of other things. We don't know about the Oregon dinosaur. These are so varied, it's hard to say. But when all you have is a sacrum, it's in this general group. So this is my last slide. I'm not going to read it. Don't worry, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to sing it. Oregon has its very own genuine dinosaur bone. It's just a toe bone, but now we know what kind of creature. Ornithopod is the group. Iguanodons in the loop. 5 meters long and oh so strong it was. A herbivore out of the redwood forest into the sea to the west. Our creature floated, rotted and bloated down to the sea floor. Thanks for your attention. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Wow, that was so great. I'm so glad you sang that at the end. That was really fun. And I gotta say, the bloat and float, I've never heard that before. And
it's fun, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah, it's fun, especially in song. Well, thank you, Dr. Retalic, for that great lecture. We're going to take a look at questions here. So I'm going to see what sort of questions come up from our visitors. Let's see what we got. We have a question from a visitor, and it says, when we went out to Mitchell and John Day Fossil Beds National Monument, there were lots of fossils and we thought they were plants and animals. Were there no dinosaurs there except the toe bone? What are all the fossils?
Oh, yes. Central Oregon is famous for fossils, but not from the Cretaceous. Ammonite collectors have always liked the Mitchell area for the ammonites. We do actually have a number of vertebrate fossils from the Hudspeth Formation. We have a bit of a pterosaur. We have a bit of a plesiosaur. We have fish. And we're starting to make a nice collection of shark teeth. In fact, we're expecting to uncover a lot of shark teeth in the excavation that we put in. Most of the dinosaurs for which that area is famous, however, are of Eocene through Miocene age, and they are mammals, not dinosaurs. So this area is really wonderful for illustrating the geological record of mammal evolution after the extinction of dinosaurs. The Condon Center, which is open for business, so road trip, has wonderful displays of the mammals, but not dinosaurs.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I have a sort of a follow-up question for myself, Dr. Retalic, based on that. When you were mentioning the Ammonite fossils just now, is that used, those animals used to age organisms here in North America, or can you do a similar thing? Is it worldwide?
Oh, globally, yes. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the movie Ammonite, which is a biopic on Mary Anning, which has taken some liberties with her sex life. But she discovered this zonation of ammonites in Lyme Regis in about the 1820s, about the same time as the Mantells were finding the iguanodon in Sussex. Lyme Regis is a wonderful place to visit. Whitby also has the same succession of ammonites. She sold the ammonites in her shop, and she noticed that they were in particular layers, that the ammonites only, each species of ammonite was in a layer of rock 2 or 3 meters thick. And then you go above that, and there's another ammonite, another kind, another whole assemblage, actually. And then it was noticed pretty quickly by William Smith and John Williamson that this ammonite zonation extended not only in Lyme Regis, which is in Dorset, but all the way up in Whitby, which is in Yorkshire. The Germans, Kvenstedt and Tübingen, he found the same zonation of ammonites in the Jura Mountains, where the Jurassic system is named, extending on into the Swiss Alps. Walter Arkel eventually found that the same zones can be found through the Himalayas all the way out to New Guinea and down the west coast of Western Australia. This zonation is what paleontologists like to do to figure out the ages of rocks. They're globally distributed fossils that represent a particular time slice.
Yeah, that's great. That really helps kind of paint the picture in my head how you can just multiple strands of evidence, I guess, and you can make a hypothesis based on those times.
It turns out the whole Jurassic period is made up of, I think it's about 100 ammonite zones. Each ammonite zone represents about 2 million years of time. So it's still true, even though we have fancy ways of dating rocks using radioactive isotopes in the lab. If you find a single well-preserved ammonite that's identifiable, you can get the age more accurately than going to the lab.
Huh. That's incredible. Thanks. There's a couple more questions here. And just a reminder out to all of you watching, feel free to put comments in, or your questions, I should say, in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, or you can do it in both places, and we'll ask the questions here. So let's see, I have a question. Since we're talking about looking for fossils and finding fossils, another question is, if people want to dig for fossils, where can or should they go? What resources do they need to think about or bring along with them? Like what places are on limits or off limits, those kinds of things?
Well, national parks are off limits, that's for starters, and state parks also. However, road cuts are good. And if you're inexperienced at finding fossils, one of the wonderful things to do is to sign up to collect in a commercial quarry, of which there are several. We dig trilobites in Delta, Utah. Is a fantastic place to go. And the trilobites are so common, you can just keep them. There are quite a number of commercial fossil quarries around Camera in Wyoming where you can find and keep fossil fish. But if you find a stingray or something really rare, then the state has to have that. But that's actually a good way to sort of get a feel for it. If you take a course at the University of Oregon or in a community college, a paleontology course, there'll almost always be some sort of a fossil collecting trip, and that'll get you going. And then once you get your feet wet and get a taste for it or a passion for it, as I did when I was a kid, you'll find now that the internet resources that we have available are so much greater than they were when I was starting out. You'll find that there's lots of postings and Facebook interest groups that will keep you going, and lots of clubs that do it, like NARG, for example, out of the Rice Museum. They have regular meetings and take fossil trips. And they work closely with us too. It's really quite wonderful.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks. I think our viewers would appreciate hearing those kinds of things on how to get involved. Let's see, there's a couple more questions here from our viewers. So we were talking about out looking for fossils, and this one kind of is looking at the other part you were talking about. So it says, is it a standard way to do the detective work the way you did, such as visiting dinosaur museums throughout the region of interest and comparing? Or is that not really a standard approach, or is that what?
Oh, no. This is why museums exist. This is why we have the Condon collection. The standard way of identifying a fossil is to look at comparable collections and compare them directly, because the illustrations are not always that great, and you don't really get a good feel for them unless you can actually turn them over in your hands. No, that is absolutely standard procedure. And you can't really take measurements from a picture very reliably, especially these days with Photoshop. If you want to measure the fossils and compare them with yours, then you really need to have the specimen in hand and a pair of calipers handy. So yes, these collections, like the Museum of Natural and Cultural History, our Condon collection here in Eugene, are essential for stabilizing the terminology that we use to identify the fossils. And there are museums all over, of course, Museum of the Rockies, and Tyrrell Museum I mentioned. Wider afield, there's the Smithsonian, the Field Museum. There are more and more dinosaur museums and more people getting interested in it. It's really quite encouraging.
Nice, thanks. You know, that reminded me, a few years back, I think there was a team from Germany that came here to Omsi to take a look at the Meomastodon fossils.
Oh, yes. They came down here too. And we had a delightful dinner with them at the Excelsior, my favorite restaurant here in Eugene. Yes.
Nice.
So that's a wonderful thing. Yes, we are a public collection. We can take people through our vault. We have a public display, which I think is open now, with limited visitation. But yes, we entertain visiting specialists, but also members of the public. It's part of what we do.
Excellent. There's a few more questions from our visitors. A visitor was asking, they say, I have what I was told is a fossilized baby mastodon tooth. Is that possible? The mastodon tooth is said to be from Whidbey Island, but were there mastodon in the Puget Sound area?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, there are mastodons all over our area. And even out on the islands, of course, they just walked across the ice when it was all full of ice. Yes, and we do have baby mastodon teeth as well as adult mastodon teeth. Both are quite possible. They're pretty distinctive looking. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the real thing.
Nice. Great. Let's see. There's a question about the Brontosaurus, and it says, you mentioned very briefly that the Brontosaurus fell out of favor, but might be making a comeback. And how come? Can you say more about that? And yeah, I guess someone said, my curiosity is piqued. Like, what is going on?
Well, yeah, well, it was named. Let me think. Who named it? I believe that was a Cope name. Marsh, it was named from a partial skeleton, which was quite close to Morrison, small town in Colorado. And then when Marsh found more complete remains at Coma Bluff and a few other places, he found that when he got that same kind of skeleton, it had a head that had already been named before, Apatosaurus. And so by the rules of priority, the name is Apatosaurus. Lowell figured this out in 1920. However, many of us got our dinosaur passion from a very influential Time Life magazine of, I think it was 1957. And Brontosaurus has featured in kids' books for years and years and years, even though paleontologists thought it was an invalid name by the priority of the nomenclatural rules. However, I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was like 2012. Someone looked again at all the long neck fossils, and they resurrected it for a distinctive kind of a skull, which is found in a similar kind of a skeleton. That's a bit controversial. Some of my paleontologist friends think it's okay. If it's true, if it is a valid name now, it's not a common dinosaur. The more common dinosaur with that body type is Apatosaurus. We have lots of skeletons of that. The difficulty is in the Morrison Formation, in this Jurassic Formation, we have several kinds of long-necked dinosaurs. We have Diplodocus, we have Apatosaurus. Those are actually fairly similar. Brontosaurus is another one a little bit like it. We have Brachiosaurus. We have Camarasaurus, a Barosaurus. The more you look, the more you find, and so the terminology is a little confusing. I personally think Brontosaurus as a name is dead, but I do understand. Sound of it is so great, isn't it? Brontosaurus, thunder lizard. Oh, yeah. Does it get any better than that?
Yeah. Good point. Let's see. There's a few more questions, and someone was asking about museums, and you mentioned several museums around the country that you liked, especially for viewing dinosaur fossils. So if there were one you would have to pick, if someone was in an area where, is there one in particular you would direct someone to, and anywhere, and where and why?
Oh, I'm gonna pick two, if that's all right. I think the best one in our area is the Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana. Really an extraordinary museum, which not only has a few skeletons, but has a whole series of growth stages of dinosaurs. But it's my second favorite. My favorite museum of all is the Tyrrell Museum, which is in Drumheller in Alberta. Bit difficult to get to at the moment, but it's also a really extraordinary dinosaur museum. So there's two really excellent road trips for you.
Nice, thanks. How about, are there any museums that you can think of that have really a unique collection of fossils? I would say like before the dinosaur time, that specializes in earlier times.
Yeah. Most of the before the dinosaur time stuff is in Texas and Oklahoma. So the Texas Memorial Museum in Austin is really good. But my favorite would be the Noble Museum, which is on the campus of the University of Oklahoma in what is it? Anyway, University of Oklahoma, Norman, just Norman, that's right. But far and away the best museum for pre-dinosaur fossils is Zico, the Museum of South Africa in Cape Town. Oh, fantastic.
Really?
Some of the best pre-dinosaur fossils come from South Africa, and they blow your mind. They're fantastic.
Wow. Oh, that's great to hear. Nice. I'm gonna have to start creating like a little bucket list here of places to go.
Oh well, yeah. If that's not too much for you, Australia has a kind of a dinosaur diamond, including a place called Kronosaurus Corner, and it's in Queensland, around the towns of Winton, Hughenden, and Richmond. Great dinosaur museums. There's also a quarry that shows a stampeding herd of dinosaur footprints. And there's the opportunity to join digs out there as well. Argentina has fantastic museums, particularly in Patagonia. Choco Museum is great. There's a wonderful one in Tridu, which is in Patagonia as well. You can spend your life going to dinosaur museums.
Yep, as you have, right? You know that's
quite so.
Let's see. There's another question here. And what's it say? Have there been any locations where a large number of marine animal bones have been concentrated as a result of a tsunami? And let's see. The location on public display at Dinosaur National Monument was the result of a flood after a drought, I guess, is what they're saying here. So
yeah, no, good question. Yeah, Dinosaur National Monument is fantastic. It's a bit disappointing because there's no complete one there. The complete ones were all shipped off to the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh, another great dinosaur museum, and also to the Smithsonian. That's a river deposit, not a tsunami. Boy, the tsunami idea, that's a very interesting one. Not that I'm aware of yet. Some of the California ones could very well be though. They are in very shallow marine deposits. Our Oregon one would be a great candidate, and so would the Susio Island one, because that subduction zone was offshore then, just as it is now, and there are tsunamites in the sequence. But the bones seem to be coming from deeper water deposits. You know, you can ride out a tsunami if you're at sea on a boat. It's not that bad. It only starts to crisp and break when it comes into shallow water. And it doesn't really stir up the bottom all that much out to sea. But it leaves a very distinctive thin sand deposit in through the ghost forests. So we see these up and down the Oregon coast. So yeah, something to watch out for. The Cape Sebastian one, it's hardly an accumulation. It's just one sacrum. But that could very well be, it seems to be on a beach-like deposit. That could very well be a tsunami deposit.
Interesting. Nice. Thanks.
But, you know, with a tsunami, you'd expect the whole thing to be articulated, and that one wasn't. You'd expect the whole corpse entombed rapidly, and that one wasn't.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I think, I'm not sure if I see any more questions from visitors or guests. Let's see. I have one last question though for you. Thinking about the paleosols that, you know, you were showing some pictures of fossil and both animal and plant fossil to help paint a picture of what the climate and the time was like. Do paleosols also give you an idea of picture of climate?
Yeah, I like paleosols the best. That's my thing. So it's kind of odd that I got off on this dino thing and working in marine rocks. Yeah, paleosols give you a picture of what the environment was like, independent of the fossil record. We do have some Cretaceous paleosols in Oregon, down around the small town of O'Brien, down there in Josephine County. And there's a few other places with potential ones. Cape Sebastian's a possibility. We don't have too many Cretaceous age paleo. Oh, and there is another one out in central Oregon, near the abandoned town of Supley and Bernard Ranch. We don't have a lot of paleosols in the Cretaceous, but we have the most fantastic paleosols in the world in our tertiary section, such as the Painted Hills. Each one of those is an alpha sol paleosol. It's telling you that there was an oak forest growing there in a humid climate on a well-drained soil in a floodplain about 30 million years ago. No mammals found with it, but we can build up a nice picture from just the paleosols by themselves.
Wow.
And of course, paleosols are so lovely. They're, I have a colleague who had a young daughter who calls them rainbow rocks. I think that's a wonderful description of the Painted Hills and of the Petrified Forest National Park and of the Badlands of South Dakota. And the Grand Canyon has lots of paleosols too. They're very beautiful. Red, purple, green, blue, gray, all dappled colors.
Yeah, thanks. There is another couple questions that coming up. They're a little more lighthearted, or as this person put it, this is a weird question. This is like, so their husband has a severe allergy to poultry. Recently, he tasted some alligator and had an identical reaction as he did to poultry.
Oh.
We surmise that it must be that they are both related to dinosaurs. Could this be true, or what? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, dinosaurs are much more closely related to chicken than to crocodile. But yeah, they are in a lineage. The crocodile lineage goes back before the dinosaurs, and the bird lineage took off from the dinosaurs in about Cretaceous time. Yeah, this is one of the very interesting things about the theory of evolution, isn't it? It may seem just like an academic exercise, but it really isn't. As we're learning from resistance to disease, the evolutionary tree also applies to all the chemicals that the individual bodies make and are making in their descendants. So allergic reactions to particular chemicals do tend to run in families and in evolutionary trees, evolutionary families as well. So yes, indeed, learning about these things in your family history is very important for medical uses these days.
Interesting. Cool. Well, I think that might be all of our questions, Dr. Retalic. Although other folks enjoyed your singing as I did, and they were asking about a tip jar, if you have a tip jar available, or
you can actually find my singing in a number of talks, and I have a YouTube channel too if they're interested in seeing more.
Oh, there.
It's just Greg Retalic. You'll find it pretty easily, I think. I retire in July from my teaching at the University of Oregon, and since we had to teach remotely, I put all my lectures on my YouTube channel, and I have some other things there too.
Oh, wow! Thanks for letting us know.
If you cruise around, you'll find lectures where I've sung at the end, on different topics.
Well, thanks for letting us know. That's a good resource to go find those lectures. That's really nice. Well, I just want to say thanks again, Dr. Retalic. Thank you so much for joining us, and all of our virtual guests out there, joining them as well, and helping us understand what fossils we have in Oregon, especially the dinosaur fossils. And good luck on your dig coming up this summer. I look forward to hearing more.
Thanks.
And yeah, and then for all of our other folks out there, we are out of time. I hope you enjoyed tonight's event. And then also, if you would like to share the video or watch it again, if you had to step away and came back, if you missed something, remember you can go back to Omsi's Facebook page or YouTube channel and view there. And you can also view some of our past science pubs as well. Don't forget to follow us on social media channels and stay up to date on future events, especially as we start opening up more of the museum and holding, hopefully sometime soon, live events. And I know I mentioned that at the beginning, everyone, but consider supporting Science Pub and making a donation. And then there is another virtual Science Pub in 2 weeks on Wednesday, June 16th, a lecture by Dr. Andre Walcott, who will walk us through research on prairie voles with a V, and their relationship between alcohol consumption and sociality. Interesting. Thanks again to our partners, Celestream, for helping make tonight possible. We really appreciate it. And then everyone, you can get more information at omsi.edu. Thanks all. Have a good night.